Welcome to Not Suitable for Work. I'm your host, Peter C. Diamond. You think your office is nuts? Wait until you hear some of these stories.
It's a story I tell people as a cautionary tale of what not to do in a pressure-filled situation.
And there's nothing like making a joke and looking at a room full of people who, are just stone-faced, and they know that you blew it.
What about our professional dynamic has given you a license to act in this way?
Here's your colleague that you've worked with for all these years, and do you know anything about him? Anything about him at all?
With each podcast, I interview folks who have a humorous work story to share. Along the way, I'll offer advice to help you make sense of your own office nonsense. Don't worry, no careers were harmed in making Not Suitable for Work. Names and places may have been changed to protect the not so innocent. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. How far would you go to forge a relationship with your client? How much do you mix business with pleasure? Whether you're in sales or professional services, clients are your lifeline. Part of being a good salesperson is being able to establish a rapport with your client. This includes small talk about what you did over the weekend, maybe going out to dinner or a concert. Some of these relationships form easily, and there's an immediate connection through a shared interest. Others take a little bit more effort, and you have to chip away at it bit by bit. There are tons of tips and tricks on how to win over a client. Many of these you learn in sales training. But every once in a blue moon, you will come across an awkward situation that isn't in any sales handbook or training manual. My guest, Pat Sullivan, shares one of those stories.
Was working for a family-owned technology manufacturing company here in the city. So what we did was we sold, our products to distributors and resellers, and I managed those relationships. And I had one relationship with one of our partners out on the East Coast.
And so what type of product?
Technology.
Hardware?
It was hardware. It was power protection and connectivity. So things like UPSs and surge protectors.
Oh, yeah.
And then
okay.
Cables, HDMI, Cat5, all that sort of stuff.
So kind of like all the infrastructure type things.
Exactly.
That is kind of, useful, but not always kind of seen or probably
it's not the sexy technology.
Not the sexy
right?
technology.
So it actually meant that I really had to work to develop relationships with our partners for them to really care about it, right? They always wanted to carry it because their customers needed it, but it wasn't necessarily something that they needed to market or advertise a lot. And so part of my job was to get them to want to market and advertise.
And would they also have your competitors too?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and we were the number 2 player in the market. There was our competitor was the number 1 in the market.
Okay, so you're the number 2 player in a not so sexy part of hardware technology.
Yeah.
And you're selling to people that would have it in their stores. Is that
some of it was retail. Some of it was distributors, and then others were the online retailers, the e-tailers, and then some were solution providers, that you would call up if you owned a business and have the, tech come out and all that fun stuff.
So is part of then, you not only selling it, but you said also to get them to market it.
Yeah, to market it, to train their salespeople on it, to want to, care about it a little bit more and understand the product and prefer our product over our competition and all that.
So you're really trying to develop then relationships with your clients.
Yes. Yeah. And I had this one client out on the East Coast who I had a really good relationship with. They always let us talk to their sales teams and train them. They were always marketing our products. They were really helping us grow our business, and a lot of it was just the relationship I had with this particular contact. And then he got promoted and moved into another role, and I got a new contact.
Would you be traveling out there, or was this all on the phone?
Mostly on the phone, but I would travel out there. We also had a person on our team who lived out there. It was kind of southern Jersey, and his name was Tony, and he would he would.
Of course, Tony from Southern Jersey.
Exactly,
Of
right?
course.
What else would his
What else?
name be?
No, he had nothing.
So Tony would do a lot of the on-site stuff for me, and then I would go out there a couple times a quarter. And so, like I said, our contact ended up getting promoted.
Because he's doing a great job.
Doing a great job selling our stuff. And we get a new contact. And it happened to be a girl, and she was very short with me on the phone all the time. So I went from having a great relationship to this person, probably looked at, you're the number 2 on this, managed more than just my relationship. So she's probably looking at this and saying, well, out of all my partners, why should I care about you, right? So why is this
You're
guy
the number
calling
2.
me? Yeah, you're the number 2, and you're the number 2 in a non-sexy category, right? I'm selling other stuff that's a little bit better. So could barely get her to answer my phone calls, could barely get her to respond to my emails. All the little extra stuff that we got because I had a good relationship with the other person, just was gone. And I was like, well, I gotta change this. This isn't good for my business. My sales are going down and all this. And so I can't get out there for a while. So I called Tony and Tony, need you to go down there. And I need you to just see what's up. Why
Turn on the charm, Tony.
Exactly.
Let's get this ball rolling.
So, tell her it's okay to answer my phone call. I'm not, I'm not a bad guy. Just let's see what we can do. So he does, and saw an immediate turnaround. All of a sudden, she's taking my phone calls. She's calling me. She's, we typically talking about business, but then she would steer a lot of the conversation just into, hey, what are you doing this weekend? And just, starting to develop more of a relationship. And which was kind of surprising because the little I did talk to her before it was, what do you want? Okay, bye. And then hang up, right? So it was all business before. So it was kind of...
So what did Tony say?
I don't know yet. Yeah, I just assumed, he just told me, he's like, I just went down there, told her we had I took her out to lunch and, just said, hey, don't be so... mean to Pat, or I forgot the exact words he used, but it was something along the lines of, it's coming off like you don't want to do business with us, and so this is how he explained it to me originally. Okay, well that makes sense. Appreciate that, because now we're back in business here, and we're getting the relationship back to where it was, and getting the mind share and the sales and everything back to where they were. So thanks, Tony. It's great. And in one of the conversations, we were going back and forth with my contact. I mentioned to her, hey, I'm going to be going out of town in a couple of weeks. I'm taking a trip to Ibiza with some friends. So I'll pretty much be out of contact. Here's who you'll call while I'm gone. And she said, okay, that's great, thanks. And a week or two go by, and I almost forget that I even had that conversation with her. And she calls me up, and she says, hey, Pat, you never said anything about the package I sent you.
So you're back from the trip?
No. I haven't. This is like the day before I'm about to leave.
The day before you're leaving.
Yeah, the day before I'm about to leave.
And this package has been on your desk now.
I never received one.
You never received it?
Yeah. So that's what I tell her. So, I never got a package. She's like, after our conversation with your vacation and everything, I thought I'd sent you a little package that you can use while you're on vacation.
So you've now gone from someone who was totally ignoring you to someone who's sending you a package for your vacation.
Exactly. Yeah. So the relationship's gotten better. I still haven't met her. It's all been over the phone. So, I said, well, I haven't received anything. She's like, well, let me look up the tracking number. Oh, it's not going to get there till tomorrow. I said, well, I'll be gone tomorrow. Like, is it okay that this thing just sits here? Is it perishable? Should I have somebody grab it and, take care of it? And she's like, no. It's not perishable. But when you get back, do not open it at work. Take it home and open it, which I thought was really weird.
But has there been any, personal type
Not
discussions?
Really. Nothing more than a social interaction between, customers and clients, right?
Okay.
We're talking about what we did on the weekends or, a movie we saw or something, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that you would steer in one direction or the other outside of just I'm developing a relationship with a client, right? Um,
And there's nothing like romantic that's
No.
beginning to.
no.
Okay.
At least not that I am
Okay.
aware of at all.
Okay.
So, go on vacation, gone for 2 weeks.
Have a great time.
Have a great time. Completely forget that that there's this package or whatever that was waiting for me, and come back to work, and I get off the elevator, and about half of my department is standing by the elevator, just waiting for me to come in. And I just kind of, what's going on? It's like, there's a big box that's been sitting on your desk for 2 weeks, and we want to know what's in it. And I was like, well, I'm not supposed to open it here, so I'm not going to. And through a lot of pressure, I finally ended up opening it in the office.
Okay. So like, how big is this box?
I mean, medium-sized box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's been sitting on your desk for
2 weeks. And everybody kind of in my area knew, heard the conversation, knew that who sent this package, thought it was weird that they would have sent something, so what did they send, and all that sort of thing. So I finally opened it up at work through a little bit of peer pressure from everybody else around me. And the first thing that I pulled out was a box of glow-in-the-dark finger paints, and like body finger paints. And then the second thing was a giant bag of assorted lube. And the third thing was a giant bag of assorted condoms.
Uh-huh.
And there's a note in there that basically said, I really hope you have fun in Ibiza and can go through most of this stuff. Whatever you can't get through, give me a call and I'll come to Chicago and we'll finish it up. And I'm in shock. Because I mentioned, I didn't see this at all, that type of relation. Never met the girl, never.
And you do you have any idea what she even looks like? I mean,
No.
did Tony tell you
No.
what she looks like?
Never even asked him. Wasn't even that was not for me, work and that are usually two
And at this
separate
point,
things,
were you were you single? Were you dating?
I was
anyone?
single.
You
Yeah,
were,
I was single. Yeah.
And did you talk about this trip? Kind of being hey, I'm going with my,
No,
friends
it was
and
actually
we're gonna get crazy, and
14 of us went. It was 7 guys and 7 girls. Now, most of it were friends who were couples. Some were already married. There was just me and one my buddies who were the single guys, and 2 of my female friends who were the single girls. No romantic thing between the single girls on the trip. So it was a guys and girls going on a trip together, and we were all just going to have fun.
So what did you do? As your
I called Tony first to figure out. I don't think Tony told me the whole story when he originally had the lunch with her. So he's like, so that's what Tony, what the hell?
And before that, everyone else in the office that now has seen this.
Yeah, everyone in my department.
Are they
They're laughing. They're and they even said we got to call Tony and figure out, because it's also Tony was one of the guys on the trip with me, by the way, because him and I became good friends. Him and his girlfriend at the time. And again, he never mentions anything about this on the trip. But Tony has a little bit of a reputation too, so they're just like, Tony did something here. This has got Tony written all over it. So we call up Tony. Hey, what did you say to her? What did you really say that day at lunch? And he goes, what are you talking about? So I told him what was in the box, and he starts laughing. He goes, okay, well, I might have told her some other things than I originally said, and maybe she took it a little bit too far. And well, what are you talking about? And I said, well, basically to get her to open up to you and all this, I said, listen, he's a single guy. He's in his early 20s. She's in her early 20s. She is single. I told her that you're a good-looking guy, that maybe she should, meet you more on a romantic level than all this other stuff. And I was just like, that's what you said to get her to, actually have a conversation with me now? And he's like, it worked, didn't it? And so, unbeknownst to me, he's been telling her in the background that, hey, you should be asking, flirting with him and ask him out and all this other stuff. And I had no idea. So now I got this package, I never met her. And he's like, well, she's all right, look at, and you kind of know her, she's a fun girl, you should come out here and take one for the team, all this sort of stuff. And like, well, this is just going to get awkward really quick, right? So I'm like, all right, now I know all cards laid out on the table, what was going on. So I also know, like, she knows I'm back today. She knows I'm getting this package. So she's expecting me at this point to call her back and talk about this. So I had to, sit here and think about it. Like, all right, I can't switch it from a business relationship to a romantic relationship, especially with a day-to-day contact. That just, in my mind, that just never works out.
Because you have values.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's going to torpedo the account at some point, right? Like, it's just not a good idea. So, but I also can't ignore this, and I can't make her feel embarrassed about it. So, since a lot of this stuff was novelty, not items, I played it off like she sent it as a joke. So that's why I called her up in a joking manner. I said, hey, I got the package. I thought this was very amusing. Thank you very much for sending it. Like, of course, I'm going to Ibiza. This would have been a funny thing to bring along, and, kind of played that aspect of it up. So I was able to diffuse the situation and kind of keep the relationship not awkward anymore, but also keep it friendly business relationship.
And then what happened?
So
after that, was like you at some point you met her.
I did.
And
for me, there was no.
But was it fine? Like when you met her?
Yeah, we met her fine. We hung out. Because I had to take her out and all that sort of stuff. So we went to lunches, we went to dinners, we went to concerts and stuff like that. It never got weird or awkward at all. It stayed business relationship. And the good thing, I guess, about that is I eventually left that manufacturing company, went to work for one of our partners, who, after a year or so of working for that partner, actually bought her company. So we ended up being on the same team a few years later, working, on the same team together. So I think also sort of, kind of keeping the business relationship, the business and the personal relationship separate, it worked out because, every industry is a small industry. People circle back a lot, right? So you can't burn those bridges.
Not everybody's quite as wise as you. It's kind of far as kind of like mixing business with pleasure. So from this, it's kind of like, what did you like your relationship with Tony? Has that survived this?
Well, it survived that. I don't hang out with him. Tony's the type of guy that when you're hanging out, you have a really good time with him, but you also know, like, Tony's in it for Tony all the time, right? So eventually that relationship's going to fizzle out. So there was, came a point where we were no longer working together because I left the company, and there was no longer reasons for, and not, like, I would have still hung out with him. He was a fun guy to hang out with, but, in his mind, okay, Pat can't do anything for me anymore, so... we stopped hanging out.
Yeah, and do you think like part of his strategy was, hey, this is going to help me if they have a better relationship? It's going to help me.
Yeah, because he gets paid on the sale. He was a sales rep in that territory, so he gets paid on anything that I'm doing in that territory too. Right? Yeah, exactly. So in his mind, it was, if I can get Pat to sell more in this account, I'm making more money because I'm a sales rep in the territory.
I'll pimp out Pat in this situation.
Oh, and he had a pretty hard conversation with me, and including my boss. So my boss at the time was not a very ethical. So my boss and him were trying to convince me, like, you realize it, we'll pay for your flight out there and your trip out there, and take one for the team. Do what you got to do. And I was just like, nah. What happens then 2 weeks later when this thing goes south? I don't know. I've never had long distance relationships work, or
one with a customer.
Exactly. Or if it just, what I think Tony and my boss was trying to make it just more of a one night stand, be like, okay, so then how does that go? When she asked, what'd you do this weekend? I said, I went out on a date with somebody, and she gets mad about that. Like, that's, I go, so long term, this is not going to work out for this account, and it's just going to be awkward and uncomfortable for me the whole time. So they were pushing pretty hard to make this love connection happen.
Sounds like a great company.
There was a lot of reasons that I think you can get a little bit of insight into that and other reasons why I'm like, I need to leave this company.
Any other thoughts on how would you say has this experience kind of impacted your the way you approach clients, or you think about, because you're still in a sales role, kind of moving forward? Any interesting lessons out there for listeners?
I think especially with people that you have contact with all the time, like I did with this person. I really try not to make sure that business and pleasure separate. The hard part is, especially being in more of a sales role, you need to, I don't know what the right word is, like charming or whatever, right? But you need to develop relationships. You need to talk to people. I didn't feel like I was flirting. I didn't feel like I was giving off any signs that there was more to me developing a relationship other than business. And with many of my clients and a lot of female clients, I'm friends with them outside of it. We've developed a relationship where it's not just business and becomes a friendship. And I got numerous friends today from work that never in my mind was going anywhere romantically. It was just more, hey, we got a lot in common, let's hang out. But I never try to cross that line because, like I said, it's a small world, and a couple years later we ended up working at the same company on the same team, and it just would have been even weirder, I think.
And was it ever brought up again?
No. I got along with her, even though it wasn't like a romantic thing. But I think probably the other thing that I really learned was, how to navigate and develop relationships with work colleagues that even if I don't have a lot in common with somebody, or, I'm looking for a different relationship than that person, right? But still kind of be able to develop a productive working relationship, even though we might have two different ideas of kind of what, like the other one
what
was,
the relationship could be,
exactly,
or what someone else wants it to be.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
Well, when it comes to more than that romantic side, I really then, once I know, like, that's where I try to make sure that I steer everything away from, I try not to, if we're going to dinner now, it's not the, super fancy wine bar. Maybe it's a little bit more of a casual place or something like that. So
we're going to eat like ribs and barbecue where it's kind of messy.
I might not go that direction if they're not into that type of thing. I mean, I had customers in like Texas. Obviously, we went to barbecue places a lot there. But I mean, on the East Coast, I wasn't going then to, we were not too far from New York, and we would have dinners a lot of times in New York. I'm not going to a nice then fancy restaurant. I'm kind of more a little bit middle of the road, so it didn't look like a dating or romantic environment. So try not to send the wrong signals, I would say. But like you said, still gotta develop that relationship. So do it more how you would with a friend, right? Find some of that common ground of interest or whatever, and really just sort of talk up that stuff, or then bring up, I went on this date, I went on that girl, this is from a romantic perspective, this is where my my areas lie.
Yeah, I was wondering if you would drop hints about dating,
Yeah, a little bit, but also not to the point, with this particular girl, not to the point where I was sort of rubbing it in, because you don't want to be a jerk. But with other clients where I felt like they might be flirting a little bit, then I might bring it up a little bit more. If I was dating someone at the time, my girlfriend at the time, or now I'm married, so my wife or my kid, or you drop up that sort of thing, and that usually, okay, this isn't going to go in that direction, and we'll keep it more on the friendly route.
Yeah. All right. Pat Sullivan, thank you very much for being on Not Suitable for Work.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Rebuffing a romantic advance at a bar is one thing. Rebuffing a romantic overture from a client is an entirely different ballgame. There's a lot at stake. Thankfully, Pat is empathetic and realized the sensitivities of this situation, not only to protect his commissions, but he also understood there's a person who put herself out there in such a vulnerable way, which is never easy to do under the best of circumstances. If you ever find yourself in a similar situation, take a page out of Pat's unofficial training manual and provide a soft landing for your client's untoward advances. I want to thank you for listening to Not Suitable for Work. If you haven't, take a quick second to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. If you want more Not Suitable for Work or have a work story to share, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Not Suitable for Work. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and now on iHeartRadio. If you have a question you want answered on a future episode, call us at 872-256-0827. I'm Peter C. Diamond. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter C. Diamond. Not Suitable for Work is produced by Matt Cunningham at Truthful Enthusiasm. Get your story online with truthfulenthusiasm.com. Until next time,